Most people imagine the biggest scams are done in the shadows. But the greatest financial fraud in history? It happened right in the heart of Wall Street, by a man who shook hands with presidents, sat on regulatory boards, and was trusted by some of the wealthiest families in the world. His name was Bernie Madoff. And for more than 30 years, he ran a lie so convincing, so polished, and so massive that it burned through $65 billion of other people's money. But the story of Bernie Madoff isn't just about greed. It's about trust, denial, and the terrifying power of reputation. It starts in the early 1960s. Bernard Lawrence Madoff was the son of working-class Jewish immigrants in Queens, New York. He wasn't born into wealth, but he had something more dangerous: ambition. And in the unpredictable world of investing, consistency is gold. Madoff wasn't investing a dime. There were no trades, no hedges, no stock positions. He was taking money from new investors and using it to pay fake profits to older ones. Classic Ponzi. His personal net worth was estimated over $800 million. He owned yachts, mansions, private jets. But he also kept a modest, charming public image, the grandfather who wore golf sweaters and gave to charity. People believed it. And not just individuals. Universities, charities, hedge funds, pension plans. Billionaires and middle-class retirees. Everyone wanted in. And his clients were the elite, country clubs, Ivy League schools, international banks. It was easier to believe the fairy tale than face the possibility that everything was fake. He started Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities in 1960 with just $5,000 he earned from installing sprinklers and working as a lifeguard. He couldn't keep up. There weren't enough new investors to pay off the old ones. He tried to stall. He tried to delay redemptions. But on December 10, 2008, Bernie Madoff sat down with his two sons, Mark and Andrew, and confessed everything. That sometimes the greatest dangers wear the kindest smiles. And that in finance, as in life, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Madoff didn't use weapons. He used charm, spreadsheets, and psychology, security, dignity. He made it feel elite, and people love what they can't have. They turned him in the next morning. He was arrested at his Manhattan penthouse wearing a crisp white shirt, calm, composed, but the scars remain. And the lesson lingers. And always remember, the smartest scammers don't look like villains. They look like success stories. Several victims died by suicide. Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies. They investigated him. They had reports. They just didn't act. Bernie Madoff didn't just scam people. He exposed how weak the system really is, how easily trust can be manipulated, how power protects itself. It's the story of a system that failed, of regulators who didn't regulate, of professionals who didn't ask questions, of investors who silenced their own doubts because they liked the answers they were getting, and how people can turn a blind eye when the numbers look good. In 2009, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison, like a man checking into a hotel. And third, fake paperwork. His office printed thousands of fake trade confirmations, fake monthly statements, fake audits. Everything looked real, down to the last decimal. Back then, Wall Street was still operating with phone calls and paper trades. First, reputation. This was Bernie Madoff, chairman of NASDAQ, well-connected, seemingly credible. If you asked too many questions, you looked like a fool. Whistleblowers, including financial analyst Harry Markopolos, repeatedly warned the SEC that Madoff's numbers were mathematically impossible. Markopolos submitted detailed reports for years. One of them was literally titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." In the 1980s, Madoff helped launch the NASDAQ and eventually became its chairman. Staff were instructed never to speak to the firm's main employees about what they did. And Madoff kept 2 sets of books, one for the lie and one for the truth. He was a Wall Street celebrity. People didn't just like him, they trusted him. And that's where the story takes its turn. There were inefficiencies, big ones, and Madoff saw them as opportunities. His firm began by trading over-the-counter stocks, a side business he never registered with the SEC. It was here, on the 17th floor of the Lipstick Building in Manhattan, that he ran his private investment advisory business. Madoff told investors he was using a strategy called split-strike conversion. It was complex-sounding enough to impress people and vague enough to avoid suspicion. Supposedly, he was buying a mix of blue-chip stocks and hedging them with options. It sounded smart, safe, sophisticated. This was the beginning of the Ponzi scheme. Eventually, he developed one of the first computerized trading platforms on Wall Street. This made him a pioneer, a visionary, someone people admired. And he didn't stop there. Because behind the respectable image, Madoff was quietly operating a separate, secretive part of his firm. It worked like this. He promised steady returns, around 10 to 12% a year. Not huge, but consistent. But here's the truth. It should have fallen apart quickly. Most do. But Madoff's scam had 3 key advantages. Second, exclusivity. He made people beg to invest. He acted like his fund was closed. You had to know someone. The money kept flowing in. By the early 2000s, his fund was managing tens of billions of dollars. Behind the scenes, it was chaos. His small team on the 17th floor kept everything secret. They used old IBM machines to backdate trades. People did question it, but no one listened. Why? Because Bernie Madoff was too big to question. He had friends inside the SEC. He had political donors backing him. Then came 2008. The financial crisis hit. The markets crashed, and investors started pulling their money out of everything, including Madoff's fund. It's all a big lie, he told them. The aftermath was devastating. Over 37,000 victims across 136 countries lost their life savings. Charities were wiped out. Retirees had to go back to work. Families went bankrupt. But the damage was already done. And the worst part? The SEC had multiple chances to stop him. He died in prison in 2021. Unrepentant, his story is a warning that not every suit tells the truth. This is not just the story of a man. It is a story of how blind faith and unchecked greed can spiral into one of the most catastrophic betrayals in modern history. And the victims? They were teachers, retirees, hospitals, athletes, actors, people who didn't just lose money. They lost trust. Today, the financial world is still dealing with the fallout. Regulations have been updated. Whistleblowers have been empowered. Question everything. Ask for proof. Follow the money. They look like Bernie Madoff.